What up, people? It is yours truly, Tazz Daddy, and I promised you a review for Colored Girls. And I tell you what, man, I had another one that I recorded, and I went to process it, and YouTube was taking forever. So I figured I'd knock it out again for you real quick and give you a much more concise version. Sometimes God will just put something away just to make sure that you give it the absolute best that you can possibly give it. Now, with For Color Girls, I gotta let you know, people were telling me, oh, well, Taz, you know it's about the book and the play. For Color Girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get all of that. But certain things let's take music, for example. If you are a fan of R&B from the 90s, you've probably heard a Babyface record, even records he's cut for other people, and you can tell, oh, that's a Babyface record. Even if it's not Babyface singing the record. Tyler Perry wrote for Color Girls for the screen. He adapted from the stage play and from the manuscript, and so there is a lot of Tyler Perry all up and through this film. Now, I'm letting you know now, if you have not seen the film as of yet, do not watch this video unless you want to know what's going to happen because I'm about to spoil it for you. You have a bunch of different women, all of which have some kind of issue. No one in this film is just without an issue. Even the happy couple in this film is with an issue. So I might as well start there first. The happy couple is played by Hill Harper and by Kerry Washington, who looks so delicious in this movie. Kerry Washington plays a social worker, and Hill Harper plays her husband, who's a cop and a detective. And before I go any further, all of these people are intertwined. They all wind up knowing each other, very similar to what you would see in a Crash or a Traffic or those kinds of movies. Everybody's worlds just collide. It's very epic. So anyway, Kerry Washington and her husband are trying to have a kid, and come to find out, unbeknownst to Hill Harper, back in the day when Kerry Washington's character was in college, she and two of her other girlfriends had their eye on this dude. The dude liked her. She fell in love with the dude. The dude gave her STD that left her barren, so she can't have children. He was visibly upset, but he did the simp thing that you would expect a dude to do in a Tyler Perry film. He'd go, "Oh, honey, you give me so much. Kids don't matter. We'll get through this. Let's just talk it out." And so they talk it out, and that's that. Um, One of the most gut wrenching parts of this film, and when I tell you this entire film is just like you might as well just take your wrist and just because it's just gut wrenching, is Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson is basically playing a magazine publisher. It's very Devil Wears Prada. She's the red chick in the film because all these women have colors, aside from the fact that they're colored. And so Janet Jackson's really mean and she's really cold and she's very spiteful and she's an independent woman. You know how you guys like that. So Janet Jackson has a husband who's a stockbroker, and for his trade, he's very, very professional. He's very, very successful. However, Janet is out banking him and throwing that money and that fact in his face. Wow, I've never seen that in a Tyler Perry movie before. Why Did I Get Married? One and two. And so, what winds up happening is, dude cheats on her, and he doesn't just cheat on her; he cheats on her with other men. And he says, "I'm not gay because I don't hold hands and I don't." I don't kiss them. I just, I'm a man. I'm a man. I'm a man. Of course, a lot of this comes from the fact that Janet was emasculating him. She didn't want him to make any money, take any money from the account. He had to ask her for everything. And he got to a point in the movie before we discover that he's gay where he says, I want to take a shower. Can I take a shower? Is that okay with you? Oh, gee, thanks. He had just had his fill. But Janet, of course, when she discovers that he's gay by finding out that she contracted HIV, says, I didn't look at the signs. I just didn't want to see. Well, whose fault is that? Yours. And so, there's just a lot in this movie, man. Anika Noni Rose's character is a dance instructor. She meets a guy. They start talking for 2 weeks. He convinces her to go to dinner. They go to dinner, have a wonderful time. And when he's walking her home, he says, "Why don't you save a brother some money? And next time, let me come over. You cook for me. We'll have a good time." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She winds up getting raped by this dude. And the one thing I will hand Tyler Perry is that every dude in this movie is light skinned. There is not a Wesley, no darkness nowhere. None of that. No Idris, no dark brothers nowhere. Everybody's light skinned and they're all evil and horrible, but they're all black. So go figure. So he rapes her. And then Hill Harper's character, who is a detective, uh, finds Anika Noni Rose and has her identify this dude's body because the next girl he raped actually stabbed him to death. And so it goes on and on and on. And then there's Kimberly Elise's character who has Michael Ealy as a boyfriend, a living boyfriend, dude who is basically living with her. He doesn't have a job. He's a vet who I guess just came out of Afghanistan or whatever. They did a lot of updating to make it more modern for our time. And what winds up happening is one day, Kimberly Elise, who's also Janet Jackson's assistant in this movie, has to come home for some important paperwork. And Janet says, "Listen, you don't have time to take the train. We'll just take my driver and we go." So they get in their town car, they come to the house, and all Michael Ealy can see is a dude driving. And he says to Kimberly Elise, "Listen, I thought you said your boss was a woman." And she says, "Well, she is a woman." She was like, "Well, who's that guy?" Maybe that guy is the father of these kids. So he takes the kids and basically hangs them out the window, and she tries to stop him, and he drops the kids on purpose. He was a drunk, he was a loser, he was crazy off in the head, he was beating her, he had beaten the children several times before. And Carrie Washington's character was a social worker assigned to the case. She went to the doctor that day and did not take the kids away from the home. And it had just gotten all crazy. Felicia Rashad's character is interesting because she's like the building supervisor. Most of the people in this story live in this apartment, and so she peeps game and she sees that Tandy Newton is always having dudes come back and forth to her house, and so she's picking up all these strange dudes, sleeping with them, and then kicking them out. I guess that's her way of empowering herself. And Felicia Rashad, gets confronted by Tandy Newton, like, "Why are you always in my business?" And she basically says, "I used to be you." So she's a recovered hoe trying to keep other hoes from being hoes. And it goes deeper. Tandy Newton's character is also Whoopi Goldberg's daughter in the movie, and she has a younger sister, and the younger sister is played by a girl named Tessa Thompson, and she winds up pregnant, just like Tandy Newton had several years before. So Tandy Newton basically tells her, "Listen, I went to this place. It's a back alley place because I ain't giving you no money, but I went to this place and I wasn't pregnant anymore." So Tessa Thompson goes to this place. And she winds up out in an alley somewhere, just passed out. They find her at the hospital. Whoopi Goldberg, who is part of this religious cult, she comes in and she's all upset. And then you come to find out that Whoopi took Tandy Newton to the same back alley woman, and there are all these issues. And there's a white man fathered both of these kids because Whoopi Goldberg's father, I think, wanted pretty pretty grandkids. So it was a whole lot of crazy dysfunction uh, in that. Then you had what I felt was like the worst character in the entire film, and that was Loretta Devine's character. Loretta Devine's character was a woman who talked to young girls about the dangers of being unprotected out here, having sex with random men, this, that, and the other. And she kept letting a guy move into her house. And this guy was married, did not get a divorce, had no desire to get a divorce, and would move in, take up a couple of drawers, knock her back out a few times, and then he would leave. When he would leave, she'd be all upset. She'd go calling him and stalking him and texting him and sending plants and flowers and cakes and cards and candy to his door. All this old craziness. So desperate for a man. And it was pathetic because Loretta Devine is a heavyweight woman. And so that just feeds into the stereotype that heavyweight women can't get a man. So when they get one, they hold on really tight, and it was absolutely disturbing. And aside from that, man, it was just nothing good about this film except for the way it was shot. It was shot very beautifully, but of course it was taken from a play that was full of poetry, so there were just these weird breaks, almost like a musical. You ever see a musical that was done really badly and all of a sudden it's time for a song, or like right now it's like, oh, it's time for a poem. I was sitting there as a black woman, and I sit and I dance and I dance and I sit and I look and I dance in the mirror. Like, what is this? It was the weirdest thing in the world. It was horrible for that part of it. Also, one thing that I thought was very weird in the entire movie, and if you don't see it for any other reason, just see this. Through the entire movie, every time Janet Jackson cries, she's crying out of her left eye. That's it. Her right eye can't drop a tear. This whole side of her face, bone dry. This side of her face soaking wet. It is just the weirdest thing. And it made me think, like, did Joe Jackson beat the tear duct out of her right eye? I don't know what's going on, but it was a mess, man. I could go deeper, But when I tell you that this movie does exactly what all Tyler Perry movies do, it puts all the blame on the men. It doesn't teach women to take responsibility for their actions, and they make us look like monsters. Every black man that I know is not gay. Every black man that I know is not in jail. Every black man that I know is not an abuser, a killer, an alcoholic, a drug dealer, or a rapist. And so I was thoroughly upset. Now, there are those of you who feel like, oh, well, Taz, Tyler Perry has his own studio, because a lot of black people are moved and respect and worship money and power and things of that nature. And if Tyler Perry has his own studio, but y'all forget he's distributed by Lionsgate, so until he owns the means of production, I'll remain a little bit unimpressed. But since he has his own studio and he's just big baller shot caller, ask him why he never made a movie about Christmas Addicts, Benjamin Banneker, um, C. Dolores Tucker, why he never made a movie about Condoleezza Rice, why he never made a movie uh, about Madam C.J. Walker. Why didn't he make any movies about Dr. Charles Drew or Frederick Douglass or anybody that could show us in a positive light doing something that did not involve cooning, beating, rape, shucking, jiving, and acting a fool? I'll tell you why. Because women with technicolor hair, women who are on fire for Jesus, and men who aren't coochie whipped or moist would not see this film. I saw this film because I'm an entertainer and I know you wanted my perspective on it, and I don't like to bash anything at least until I've seen it. So there it is. It's a hot, nappy mess. I look forward to your comments. If you like it, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, leave a comment. Either way, log on to TazzDaddy.com. Check out my shows. You know what I'm doing. And I will holla at you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Peace.